watching the award-winning GHS-TV, a nationally recognized student television station.
Hello and welcome to GHS-TV's award-winning talk show, Crosstalk. I'm Calvin Nicholson. Let's talk about you. What's going on in your life, whether it's at home or at school. Now here's something that everyone will love, music. Whether you're someone who either listens to music or makes music, the music is in all of us. With that being said, on today's episode, I have the honor of speaking to someone very special. A man who opened for the Beatles on their first U.S. tour, a man who toured all around Europe, and a man who teached while still doing tours on the weekend. He's a producer, he's a guitarist. Please welcome to none other than Mr. Bob Tucker. Thank you for joining us today, Mr. Tucker.
Thank you for having me.
We're going to jump straight into it. You opened for the Beatles on their first U.S. tour. So this was a very cultural moment. How did your band was able to be chosen to do that?
Okay, well, the band we're talking about is the Bill Black Combo, which was very well known in the 60s for instrumental recording. We'd sold millions of records. And back in the 60s, when artists toured, they packaged the tours. No one went and did 2 or 3 hours without other acts on the show. So when the Beatles decided to come over here, they had to put together a package because that's the way it was done. And if they hired a band that was strong on instrumentals, they could use them to back the 2 or 3 other acts that were on the show that didn't have a band. And for example, we went out and did 20 minutes. Then we brought on the Righteous Brothers, who came out and did 20 minutes. Then a young lady named Jackie DeShannon came out and did 15 minutes. And then a group called the Exciters, who had a hit record at the time, came out and did 15 minutes. And then they got the Beatles.
There are rumors around that this is Britain's revenge for the Boston Tea Party. 3,000 screaming teenagers are at New York's Kennedy Airport to greet, you guessed it, the Beatles.
You back again.
Well, thank you for that. That's very informational, just to see how it felt. Now, this goes into that how it felt. We saw footage from the actual concert, but you have firsthand knowledge because you were there. So how was it playing in front of all of those fans?
Well, it was awkward because we didn't have sound reinforcement equipment in '64. We played venues as big as 20,000, 30,000, some even 40,000. The Gator Bowl, for example, the Hollywood Bowl, Red Rock Stadium. We used whatever house system they had, which meant if you said something, it would be a 2 or 3 second delay before you heard it. No stage monitors, nothing. And that was very difficult to figure, but we were instrumental, so it didn't bother us as much. But the Beatles, they had to work. They had to concentrate on what they were saying. Don't worry about what they heard.
That's actually so informational because, you know, with a lot of new school bands, they rely on those sound monitors across the stage.
Well, that's called progress. That's much better now.
It shows us how much we've progressed since then. So now I want to ask you this. You've experienced and saw so much being on tour. What's one of the most memorable moments that stand out to you?
Well, the one thing that I wasn't used to was the fact that you couldn't go anywhere with the Beatles. And when we flew into a city, we would fly in the middle of the night so that we could get to our hotels without any crowd problems. And for example, one night we were in Atlantic City, and the Beatles tour manager called me and said, Ringo wants to go out and have a drink. Will you go with us? This was about 3 o'clock in the morning. We went to a bar. There was nobody in the bar, nobody.
Just you and him.
And just the three of us.
Mm-hmm.
Then I saw the bartender get on his phone, and within 15 minutes there was 200 or 300 people in the bar, and we had to leave. So it was kind of a different experience for me. I'm sure it's something like what Elvis went through his whole career. And so there were just instances like that. I remember we were playing in Montreal or Toronto, Canada, and our next engagement was at the Gator Bowl in Florida, but we had a day or two off in between. We flew down to Key West, Florida. It's in August, a town that hadn't reached the status it has now as far as tourism. There was no one in town, no one. So we laid around the hotel there for a day or two, and I remember Paul told me, he said, look, can you go to the store and get us some albums? We want to hear some music. He gave me $300 or $400, and I went to the only record store I could find. I bought everything I thought they might be interested in, about 30 or 40 albums. Brought them back to the room. He and Ringo were listening to them. They'd play a cut and they'd sail the album across the room. But when they got to Carl Perkins, Jerry Lee Lewis, they listened to every cut. The Memphis music got into their soul quickly. In fact, I probably made Carl Perkins a millionaire because Ringo cut a couple of his songs off the album that I bought. So I thought that was an interesting thing.
So, you just referenced to a lot of how the Beatles concerts were jumping and how it was a lot of people. So could you please just go into how you also met Eric Clapton? Can you talk a little bit about that experience?
Well, that was after we left the Beatle tour, we went to England. We were part of an exchange between the American Music Union and England's Music Union for musicians. We were officially traded for the Beatles. Mm-hmm. We went over there and did 30 days on the road with a package show like the one here. I might also add that's probably the greatest trade exchange imbalance in the history of the United States, because they made millions and we made just dollars, Mm-hmm. But anyway, Clapton was playing in the Yardbirds. No one knew how good he was. No one knew what was in front of him, and their song list didn't have the kind of songs in it that would lead you to believe he would break out like he did. But he did, and rest is history.
How did you develop your musical skills to even be put in this band, in the band, or even to tour? What tools did you use to develop your musical skills?
I was more of a band leader than I was a musician, although I played guitar and bass. I knew I had to have good players around me, and I knew when the band sounded like the way I wanted it to sound, the way Bill wanted it to sound. I took it over for Bill Black in '64, and I just stuck to that Memphis soulful sound, and it worked for years and years.
And it truly made an impact. Now, I want to move back to the educational side, which you being a professor. You started a program, actually, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, they started a commercial music program at the University of Memphis, and they asked me to join in and leave from the journalism department over to the music department, and I was head of the commercial music program, which was publishing, management, the business side, which is what I had experience in.
So in your opinion, what role in education does it play in shaping musicians, in shaping the music industry as a whole, especially being a professor?
Well, the music is one thing, the business side of the music is entirely different. Mm-hmm. And you need to be well grounded in life. I don't care what you do. And I can't think of anything any better than you going and getting a good high school start, going to college and getting as much as you can. And it doesn't matter what you go into. Believe me, you'll learn things in college and high school that'll serve you the rest of your life.
And that speaks values to me, even not being a musician, but that statement speaks a lot of value. So now I want to end with, not even ending, but this is going towards the last part, would ask you, the legacy of rock and roll, going back to the Beatles, back to when you were playing, how do you feel that that's made an impact on today's musicians?
Well, I think each generation contributes to the next generation. When I started, it was just in its infancy on rock and roll. And then we went from what we were doing, next generation would have been the Beatles. Because we were used to a band and a singer and doing what was really called a mixture of rhythm and blues and a little rock or jump to it. But when the Beatles came, we had 4-part harmony, chord structures that were intricate and different, little and orchestration behind some of the songs. I mean, we were used to playing with a 4-piece band or 5, and it changed. It changed a lot. And then behind the Beatles and that era, here comes the disc jockeys that played clubs and knocked the musicians out of work. and then here come the rappers and the hip hoppers, and
now you have R&B and all the other types
well,
of genres.
R&B's been constant flow through all of it. Believe me, people that live and grew up in Memphis do not know how lucky they are. B.B. King, Bobby Blue Bland, I mean, all these people, Albert King. It's just amazing to be able to live and grow up in this town that's so rich with music. I don't believe there's a town anywhere in the world that's had what we've had.
So, Mr. Tucker, first of all, I want to thank you, and I want you to finish us off with this last statement. If there's anything you could say to an inspiring musician, an inspiring band leader, or any of these musicians around Germantown High School, what would you want to tell them?
Well, I would tell them to practice, and the only one that can end your career is you. So don't give up, because you never know when that break's going to come.
Well, thank you, Mr. Tucker. You've truly been a pleasure.
Thank you, sir.
We've heard from the man himself. Up next, we will talk to a well-knowledge local musician and a young drummer looking to tap into his local music scene. We're back with our Crosstalk Peer Panel. We have two guests, Dr. Ted Horrell and GHS alumni, Superintendent of Lakeland School District and lead singer of the Ted Horrell and the Monday Night Card. And we have our very own Trevor Jones, a student here at GHS who's interested in joining a band and a musician himself. Well, Dr. Horrell, we're going to start with you. I heard you came out with a new vinyl just a couple days ago, or just this month, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, on Saturday mornings we'd meet at the screen, and my dad turned on wrestling, we sat on his knee. As wild as it was, it could never compete, 'cause the Monday Night Card would be something to see. Yeah, the Monday Night Card.
It came out in November, and this
okay.
is our brand new record. It's called Mid-South Fair. And this is by the group that you mentioned, Ted Horrell and the Monday Night Card. So we're excited. This is my first vinyl pressing of an album, and it's got 12 songs on it. This was I think it's the 9th collection of music that I've put out of my songs. So we're really excited to have it out there. Yeah.
All right, so Dr. Horrell, I just want to start off. Could you tell us a little bit about the Monday Night Card?
Sure. This is I've played in several bands over time, but this is a group that I wanted to basically just be a backup band for the music that I was making. So I've been playing with the kind of core 4 members of the Monday Night Card for about 10 years now. It'll be 10 years this summer. And we've got drums, bass, keyboards, 2 great vocalists. We do a lot of 3-part harmonies. And then we've got another percussionist that plays with us, and then a lead guitarist that plays with us as well.
Okay, thank you for that. Now, Trevor, you're a percussionist yourself, all right? Yes. So that's what I've heard. So I just want to give me some experience that you have as of now, and what are your plans going in the future?
Some experiences I've had as a percussionist were like I've get asked to like play these like certain parts that like I've never like played before, so I like look up on YouTube like how to play these certain instruments, and then like I kind of just take those skills with me into like other times where like I'm needed. And also as like a drum set player, like I've recently just made the All West Red Jazz Band, so I'm grateful for the opportunity, and I just want to be able to continue this passion as long as I can.
Well, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
That's great.
Now, let's start off here. I want Dr. Horrell, if you don't mind, would you just give us some little nuggets as an inspiring musician here? He is a musician, but interested in joining the band. What's some things you can give even to the musicians out here watching us today?
That's a great question. I think it's important to, make sure you find people that you enjoy making music with, that you see eye to eye with. I think sometimes it's important, it's always important for everybody to understand what the goals are and that they agree on those goals. The situation I've got now is terrific because we're all folks that work. We're not full-time musicians, but we all take it very seriously. They all knew when I put the band together that we'd be playing primarily my songs. That's important to note. We weren't looking to be a cover band or a different kind of band. And everybody puts a lot of time and effort and energy into that. So I think it makes it everybody knows what to expect and kind of they understand what the dynamic is, and it makes it a lot of fun. We really have fun, and that's the main thing. There's not a lot of pressure for us to make money or be successful to even sell a lot of records. The money we make, we put back into the band. So it's a little bit unusual. It's different from being a professional musician, but I'd say find folks that you vibe with and that you enjoy making music with, and get on the same page and then have a blast.
Trevor, just a quick question. You work with our jazz band.
Yes.
So could you tell us how it is leading and helping out? I'm pretty sure you lead the jazz band now, one of their leaders and the captains in there. So what is it like doing that?
It's more like, I feel like as a leader, like, you just have to like kind of bring everyone together. So you kind of just have to say, hey, you're not working on this part correctly, so you might need to go in like a little corner working it by yourself while we're working on this section. And it's like we kind of like just chunk it piece by piece until we can get that whole thing nice and tight. And I know Mr. Thompson, he doesn't really do much, but like he kind of like just facilitates saying like, hey, get back on task, make sure y'all are working on this part, make sure this is what you need to work on for today. And then it's kind of just mostly student-led from there. So, yeah.
Do you have any questions for Dr. Horrell?
Did you do any gigs when you were young?
I did. I started playing in bands when I was in high school, so probably about your age. Played some parties, played some church events. We wound up playing Germantown High Winterfest one year. And we were all playing covers at that point. So, I had the opportunity to do a lot of gigs. And then when I went to college, I played in two different groups that kind of played around at the different, bars and venues and at the college I went to. So really all those experiences help a lot. I think the more, as you know, the more you can play live, the more confident you get.
Yes.
And I'll say I think that's great experience that you've got, learning how to talk to people about what it is you want, what you expect. I think that's important in a band. At the end of the day, this album's got my name on it, and so the other folks in the band kind of understand that I might say, hey, let's try a little less of that or a little more of that, or could you try this in a different way? And it's good, the skills that you're learning, I think, to learn how to have those conversations.
Right.
Have you found that to be that sometimes you have to handle it a certain way?
Yeah, some people take criticism differently.
Yeah.
And so like you have to know how to work around that, because I know especially it said it like outside of like just band in general, like some people just take criticism differently. So I have to learn how to work around that and just be a better person overall.
Yeah, that's great skills to pick up.
So I have a question for you, Dr. Horrell. You said that you started off here at GHS. You're an alumni. And also you were a teacher here as well. You came back to teach with us. So could you give us how did Germantown High School help push your career and better it? So as a student, he can know what to do. What are some things that you took up, some opportunities?
Sure. I've had a lot of great opportunities here. I had the opportunity to be on air and do hosting like you did, but also the opportunity to, like everybody does, to work behind the scenes. And I think a lot of those lessons are ones we just talked about. How do you lead others, but also make sure that you're being supportive of others? Because at the end of the day, you're all trying to get the same job done. And it works the same way in a band. It works the same way in being a superintendent. Even if you're the boss, like the superintendent, you're still trying to motivate people to work towards similar goals, and that involves listening, and that involves taking feedback from other people, sometimes taking criticism, like you said. But really, at the end of the day, as you guys probably know, it's hard work, It's organization. It's being prepared. It's making sure that you check, double check, and check again, like you guys say. And those are the things that build confidence from others in your abilities.
Dr. Horrell, you just pointed out that you're a superintendent. All those students are listening, and Trevor, we may have after-school jobs, but you maintain a district. So how do you maintain your job as a superintendent, but also with the Monday night card?
I get asked that question a lot. It's important to me, and my family's great and very supportive. They know that it's important. We try to balance it as a band and make sure we're not taking too much time away from our families or certainly our jobs. But it's important enough that we prioritize it. So we play shows once, maybe twice a month, as it turns out. Again, if it's important, we'll make time for it. And I do have to work around the schedules. The job comes before the band, certainly, and the family comes before both of them. But it's important to all of us, so we make it work.
All right. Well, thank you, Dr. Horrell. Thank you, Trevor, for coming out and talking with me today. That's it for today's episode of Crosstalk. I would like to thank both Dr. Horrell and Trevor Jones, and I would also like to thank Bob Tucker for coming on to the show and giving an insight on the music industry. Please make sure teachers and students to hit that like and share button below to GHS-TV. For more information on our programming, please check us out on the web at ghstv.org, where we're streaming live 24 hours a day. You can also check us out on Facebook and Instagram. I'm Calvin Nicholson, and from all of us here at GHS-TV, thank you for watching Crosstalk, and I hope to see you again.